She faked her pregnancy to claim my $250, $0 inheritance, and nearly stole our family estate. Then I discovered she secretly sold the house behind my back for a fraction of its value. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. If you told me a year ago that my wife, Lisa, would turn out to be a lying, manipulative cheat, I'd have laughed. But life has a way of throwing punches when you least expect it. The weirdest thing, it all started with a gut feeling. Something wasn't right, and I ignored it for too long. Now I realize that gut feeling was warning me about everything I was about to find out. Lisa and I had been married for about 5 years. We met during college, and she was always the bitchy, demanding type, hard to please, quick to lie, and even quicker to manipulate. I thought I knew her, thought we had a solid bond. She was gorgeous, smart, and she knew how to push all my buttons. I was the kind of guy who worked hard, provided for us, and tried to keep everything smooth. But behind closed doors, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. At first, it was minor. She'd be late coming home from work, saying she was stuck in meetings or had to work late. I bought her excuses, even when I caught her texting under the table or sneaking around her phone. She'd get defensive, call me paranoid, accuse me of snooping or being insecure. I was willing to brush it off, thinking maybe I was overthinking it. But then came the bigger clues. She started dressing differently, more provocative outfits, always making sure her makeup was perfect, even for just a quick trip to the grocery store. She refused to tell me where she was going sometimes, just saying it was nothing or none of my business. I remember one night, I came home early from work and her phone was buzzing nonstop. I peeked at her screen, and there were messages from some guy named Mike, talking about meeting up, sending flirty emojis, and even discussing plans to spend some time together. I felt a punch in the stomach. I wanted to confront her right then, but I held back. I figured maybe I was overreacting, maybe it was just some colleague or friend. But the feeling kept gnawing at me. I started paying more attention, noticing her phone was glued to her hand, that she was secretive whenever I tried to look at her messages. She'd get angry if I asked about her whereabouts, accuse me of being controlling. I told myself she was just stressed, that everyone had their secrets. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then one day, I decided to check her emails while she was out. I know, stupid move, but I couldn't help myself. When I looked, I found a string of messages. She was talking to a guy named Ryan, not Mike anymore, about meeting up, about how she was so bored with me and needed some excitement. The tone was flirty, even suggestive at times. I read everything in disbelief. My wife, the woman I trusted with my life, was planning secret meetups with some guy while I was working. Late, the betrayal hit me like a freight train. That night I confronted her. I was furious, heart pounding, voice shaking. I showed her the emails, the texts, everything I'd found. Her reaction? She played the victim, said I was paranoid, accused me of invading her privacy. Then she threw in some classic lies, how she was only talking to Ryan because she was lonely, how it meant nothing, that I was imagining things. But I knew better. I knew she'd been lying all along, and I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. I remember the look in her eyes when I told her I knew about her affair. It was a mixture of anger, contempt, and a kind of defiance. She spat that I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that she was tired of pretending everything was perfect. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Not after everything we'd been through. I felt a strange mix of sadness and rage. Sad because I'd trusted her, and rage because she'd been cheating on me behind my back, secretly selling our family estate, and lying through her teeth. This was only the beginning of what was to come. After I found out about her affair, everything felt like it was spinning out of control. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. My mind kept circling around the betrayal, trying to make sense of how someone I loved and trusted could turn into such a liar. Lisa, of course, kept insisting she was innocent, that I was just insecure and jealous, that Ryan was just a friend she was venting to. But I knew better. The texts, the emails, there was no denying what I'd seen. It was clear she'd been lying to my face for months. What made everything worse was how she tried to minimize it. She started throwing around words like mistake, stressed, it's not what it looks like, and I love you but I need something more. Yeah, right. That's when I started to see the real Lisa, the bitchy, manipulative side that I'd always suspected but never wanted to admit. She was good at lying, good at twisting things around so she looked innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. The biggest shock came a few days later when I decided to check her phone again. I was just curious, honestly wanted to see if she'd slipped up or deleted anything. Instead, I found something that made my blood run cold. She had sold the house behind my back. The family estate, the one we talked about passing down to our kids someday, was gone. I saw the contract. She'd signed it without telling me for a fraction of its worth. I couldn't believe it. She sold our future for a quick buck, probably to cover her secret affairs or just because she was bored with the life we built. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All those years, all that effort I put into building our life, and she just gave it away. I couldn't even process it at first. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling numb and furious all at once. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that? I started to piece everything together. The constant lies, the secret meetings, the selling of our house. She wasn't just cheating on me emotionally, she was systematically destroying what we had. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with everything laid bare. I told her I knew about the house, about her affair, about everything. Her face twisted into a sneer. She tried to deny it, of course. Said I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I didn't understand how stressful her life was. But I could see through her lies now. She was a master at manipulation, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. That night I felt a strange mix of heartbreak and rage. I'd loved her once, believed in us, but now I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a thief, a cheat. And I realized I'd been a fool to think I could save this marriage. The betrayal was too deep, the damage too extensive. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in this illusion, pretending everything was fine when it clearly was. The next step was clear. I had to plan my revenge, to take back what was mine and make her pay for what she'd done. The next few days were a blur of planning and trying to keep my composure. I couldn't let her see how much she'd rattled me. Inside, I felt like I was unraveling, but I had to act like I was in control. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of the emails, the contract for the house sale, her messages with Ryan. I wanted to be prepared, to have everything documented before I confronted her again. I also started thinking about how I was going to turn her own game against her. Lisa, of course, played the victim whenever I pressed her. She'd throw her head back, give me that bitchy smirk, and say I was overreacting, that I was just jealous because she was more attractive or more successful than me. She called me insecure and clingy, but I knew her game now. She was trying to make me doubt myself, just like she'd done in the past with her lies. But I wasn't falling for her manipulation anymore. I knew what she was capable of, and I knew I had to be smarter. One night, I decided to set a trap. I knew she'd be out meeting Ryan again, probably to celebrate her latest lie or to plan her next move. I installed a hidden camera in the living room, nothing invasive, just enough to catch her in the act if she came home late. I also left my phone on the coffee table with a recording app running, just in case she tried to deny anything. The plan was simple: catch her in the act, have undeniable proof, and then confront her with everything. The night came and I sat there in the dark, heart pounding. I kept replaying the betrayal in my mind. How she'd lied about everything, how she'd sold our house, how she'd cheated on me with Ryan. I felt sick, furious, and utterly betrayed. Then around midnight I saw her sneaking in through the back door, her heels clicking loudly on the porch. She was drunk, laughing on the phone with someone, and I immediately recognized Ryan's voice. My blood boiled. The proof was right there in front of me. I waited until she was inside, then pressed play on the recorder. Her voice was unmistakable. She was telling Ryan she loved him, that she'd always be there for him, that she couldn't wait to see him again. The footage was damning. I had everything I needed: her secret affair, her lies, her betrayal of our marriage and our family estate. It was time to face her again, but this time with everything laid out and ready. I stayed up all night, reviewing the evidence and preparing my words. I knew confronting her would be explosive. I wasn't the kind of guy who liked drama, but I refused to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done being the victim. I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean, but if she lied again or tried to spin her way out of it, I'd expose her fully. I was planning my revenge, and I was going to make her regret every lie, every betrayal, every stolen dollar. My mind was made up. She was going to pay. The confrontation finally came after I'd gathered everything I needed. I told her I knew about her affair, the house sale, everything. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, like she thought she could still lie her way out of it. She tried to deny the affair at first, threw in some of her usual bullshit about how I was insecure and paranoid. But I had the footage, the emails, the contract, proof that left no room for doubt. Her face twisted into something ugly when I played the recordings of her talking to Ryan. Her eyes widened in shock, then quickly hardened into that familiar sneer. She started yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying on her, of invading her privacy. She said I was just jealous because she was more attractive and more successful, that she loved me but needed excitement. I couldn't believe how brazen she was, throwing her lies in my face as if she was untouchable. I didn't lose my cool, but I made it clear I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I knew about the house, about her cheating, about her selling our family estate behind my back. Her face didn't change. She kept trying to spin her stories, claiming she did everything for us, that she was only trying to protect us from the stress of the estate and her own feelings. I laughed bitterly. Protect us? She was the one secretly selling off our future, lying and cheating all along. That's when I dropped the biggest bomb. I pulled out the signed contract for the house sale. Her face went pale and she stammered. I told her I'd already contacted a lawyer, that I was going to take legal action. I told her I'd also be reporting her to the authorities for fraud and theft. Her eyes flashed with anger and panic. She tried to deny it, say I was overreacting, that I was ruining everything we had. But I knew I had her cornered. She pushed me too far, crossed every line I'd ever drawn. I saw her turn into a different person, bitchy, cold, calculating. She snapped at me, said I was ruining her life, that she'd make me regret it. But I didn't care. The rage and hurt I'd carried for months finally erupted. I told her she was done, that I was filing for divorce, that I wanted her out of my life and out of my house. I was done being manipulated, lied to, and betrayed. I was done with her games. This was the end of the line for us. When she realized I was serious, she threw a tantrum, screamed about how I was destroying her, how I'd ruined her life. But deep down, I knew this was her just trying to save whatever little control she had left. I didn't care. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but also relieved. I'd finally taken back control. I knew I'd need to be strong to get through the coming legal battle, but I was ready. The betrayal had cut deep, but I was determined to rebuild my life and leave her in the dust. The aftermath hit harder than I expected. Once I filed for divorce and pushed her out of the house, Lisa's true colors showed even more. She became bitchier, more aggressive, throwing tantrums whenever she thought I wasn't looking. She started accusing me of everything, saying I was trying to ruin her life, that I was unfairly taking everything from her. But the truth was, I'd already taken enough. I had the evidence, the legal documents, and my own peace of mind. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation, but I wasn't going to let her. What really stung was how she tried to spin everything to her friends and family. She told them I was a controlling, insecure husband who was jealous of her success. She claimed she was only trying to find herself, and that I was just too insecure to handle her independence. I heard from some friends that she was even lying about the affair, saying it was just a misunderstanding or that I was crazy for believing her. That was classic Lisa, lie, deny, manipulate. But I didn't care anymore. I had all the proof. Meanwhile, I was left to pick up the pieces of my broken trust. I moved into a small apartment nearby, away from the house that now felt like a prison. I started focusing on my work, trying to rebuild my confidence. The inheritance, the estate, the house, I'd lost it all on her lies, but I was determined not to let her win. I knew the legal battle wasn't over yet, but I was ready for it. I had to protect what was left of my life, even if it meant going through hell for a while. The financial damage was staggering. She sold the house for a fraction of its worth, and I was now fighting to get my fair share back through the courts. I found out she'd hidden some money, made secret investments, and even tried to transfer some assets to her sister to hide her tracks. It was a mess, but I was prepared. I hired a good lawyer, and we started unraveling everything. I knew the fight wasn't over, but I refused to let her manipulate me anymore or take what's legally mine. One thing I learned from all this: trust is a fragile thing and betrayal cuts deep. I used to think marriage was forever, that love could conquer all. But Lisa taught me that sometimes people are just looking out for themselves, and you have to be smart enough to see it before it's too late. I won't lie. I still feel the sting of her lies, the pain of her betrayal. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I'm finally free of her manipulation, and I'm determined to rebuild my life piece by piece. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I won't let her destroy me again. Not ever. Looking back now, I realize how much I've learned from all this chaos. Trust is something you think is unbreakable until someone you love proves otherwise. Lisa's betrayal didn't just break my heart, it shattered my entire sense of security. But through all the pain, I found a strange clarity. I saw her for who she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman willing to lie, cheat, and steal everything I worked for to get what she wanted. The legal battle was long and exhausting. It dragged on for months, but in the end I managed to recover a significant portion of what she stole: money, assets, and the estate she tried to sell behind my back. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about reclaiming what was rightfully mine and making her pay for her lies. I learned to be cautious, to never blindly trust again. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting someone just for the sake of it. It's about standing up for yourself and protecting what you deserve. The biggest lesson, though, was about the importance of self-respect. I used to believe in forever, in fairy tales about happily ever after. Now I see that sometimes you have to walk away from the lies, from the betrayal, and rebuild from the ground up. I've started dating again, cautiously, but I'm not rushing into anything. I know now that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive even the deepest betrayals. I won't pretend I'm completely healed. The scars are still there, and sometimes I have nightmares about what she did. But I'm moving forward. I've learned to value myself, to trust my instincts, and to never let anyone manipulate me again. Lisa's story taught me that some people are just good at lying, and that sometimes the only way to truly win is to walk away and rebuild your life on your own terms. So to anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut, document everything, and don't be afraid to fight for what's rightfully yours. The pain won't last forever, but your strength will. And in the end, you'll come out of it stronger, wiser, and more prepared for whatever life throws your way.